views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to Bronxtalk. With 2015 coming to a close, we thought it would be a nice idea to take a look at the Bronx in a way that maybe we've never looked at it before. Now, we're not going to show you things you have never seen before. In fact, what we're going to look at tonight are photos of things you've seen all the time, maybe even in your own Bronx neighborhood. Tonight's guest is the author of something he calls Wandering New York. And what he does is, yes, wander New York with his camera, and he takes photos of ordinary scenes that, well, maybe you might have missed. The result is a fascinating study of the ordinary in our home borough of the Bronx, but maybe you've never really stopped to look at the natural, everyday beauty that surrounds us, and that's what we will explore on our New Year's show tonight. Because of the holiday, we're on tape, so that means no phone calls. However, you can send us an email to bronxtalk@bronxnet.org, or you can post them on our Facebook page, and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of the program. For the here and now, we've got him to stop wandering New York so he can spend a few minutes with us on Bronx Talk. Welcome to Joe Raskin. Good evening.
Good evening. My pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So tell me, how did Wandering New York get started? What's the idea?
It's just, I guess, a celebration of the city, of what things are not touristy. You'll never see the Empire State Building. You'll never see the Statue of Liberty. You'll never see other similar landmarks unless it's way in the background it's a background shot.
The idea is to take a look at what I just described, at the ordinary in our lives. Did you take pictures and then one day and said, "Oh wow, look, I have now I have something"? Or did you say to yourself, "I think I'm going to go out and start taking pictures in this way"?
It was just something in the evolution of my basic style. I am not great with taking pictures of people, and I just like taking pictures of the city. And I wanted to get away from the main drag, away from where most of the people head. And the best thing for me to do is just hit the different neighborhoods.
Now you work. I mean, you take pictures in the 5 boroughs. I don't want to make it sound like it's exclusive to the Bronx, although we certainly did select the Bronx photos. Do you literally wake up in the morning, or after you have breakfast you say, okay, now I'm going out, and then you jump on the subway and go to a different neighborhood, or do you plot it, or you just literally wander? How does it work?
Generally speaking, I figure out a point A where I'm starting from, and have a general idea of where we want to wind up, so I can get back home. Mm-hmm. But I rotate around by borough. I very rarely do the same borough twice 2 days in a row. Right. I try to get to the Bronx at least once a week, if not more.
Well, we want you as often as we can get to.
Which is the right thing. I had less photographs of the Bronx to start off with when I started the photo blog, and I wanted to catch up. And I had mostly Manhattan, mostly Queens, mostly Brooklyn. Just these boroughs.
See, we were the undiscovered borough.
And that's right. And I wanted to, just out of fairness and just out of curiosity. I have half of me is of Bronx descent. My dad came from the Bronx. He grew up on 80th Avenue between Barnes and Matthews. Right. Went to PS 76 in the days when it was eight grades in the school.
So the Bronx was in your blood.
Bronx was in my blood, and And I try to find things like that. I have a familiar thing. One of the pictures I sent over to you was a picture of the block that he grew up on.
We'll show that. We're going to show all the pictures.
And also that when I'm over by Alton Avenue, I always find a way to go past the house that my grandmother lived after she lived on 80.
So, how often do you do this? You do literally every day? I mean, you're retired from a job. You did work for the city for many years, and of course, we all thank you for your service. But you retired, and then you do that literally every day?
Every day, unless the weather's really horrible or something like that. And even then, I find a way to get around, maybe taking subway pictures or something like that.
And you spend like a full day, 2-3 hours, or whatever suits you?
It depends.
Wait, let's hold on those pictures. Let's not show those pictures yet, because
it depends what suits. It depends what suits me. There's sometimes I'll do a couple of hours. Sometimes I'll do more than that. Generally speaking, I will walk between about 3 to 7 miles a day doing something like that.
Well, it certainly is. That's a good thing for you. Yeah. Now, do you take? People saw a real quick look at some of the pictures, but we're going to show them all. I get the feeling you're not like a classic photographer. That some of the appeal of this is kind of the everyday nature of the fact that you. I don't want to say you don't really take classic photos and play with the light, but you just use what's there and then just photograph that.
Very, very much so. I try to go for the everyday look. If I do something on when I'm downloading, I'll crop a picture just so I'm focused more in on the subject. Sometimes I play around with it a little bit, but just I want it to be as people see it. And
go ahead.
And just to have the best possible picture of it, but I don't Photoshop or anything like that.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not like we've had so many photographers on the program, and they've taken great pictures and they play with the lighting. But what you do and what we're going to give, what I just thought was fascinating because I saw it on Facebook, is that and there are buildings that I've seen, ones in my own neighborhood, and I said, I never stopped to look at them like that. Are you ever amazed? Are you ever blown away? Do you say, oh my goodness, this is just an unbelievable thing? Or I'm guessing on a daily basis.
Oh, well, a lot of times, particularly in the Bronx with the Art Deco architecture, just the general look of a lot of the houses. One of the things that I've told people is that the brickwork on a lot of even the private houses is just so much more elaborate in the Bronx than you find in other boroughs. That it seems like there's a little bit more effort that went into the design and into the actual finish work in the houses.
What you're telling me is the people of the Bronx have soul, and we've always had soul, and that's the way it is. So we're about to take a look. Now, before we do, you have a book or something, right? Which is not the same thing as Wandering in New York, although I believe you could do a Wandering in New York book eventually.
Hopefully.
But tell me about the book about the subways.
The book is called The Routes Not Taken. It's a history of parts of the subway system that were not built. People think about Second Avenue, obviously, in Manhattan. But the story that fascinated me the most, and maybe it's because my dad grew up on the next block, was the plans to extend the concourse line into the East Bronx. What was referred to all over the place as the Burke Avenue line. That it was supposed to cross Bronx Park as a bridge. I guess go back underground because they were doing tunnel. They were doing.
Wow.
My dad saw when
I'd never heard about that.
When my dad was when my dad was like a teenager, he saw the guys in the Board of Transportation, who were the predecessors of New York City Transit, doing preliminary engineering work along Burke Avenue, and it was it was supposed to be the second phase of the IND. The first phase we know, the second phase never happened.
And these were never built. Now this is not a picture book.
It's not a picture book. Although I have some pictures in. I have a number of pictures in there. A couple that I took. But what happened with Burke Avenue is that Burke Avenue eventually morphed into the Dyer Avenue line.
Right.
And
so then they never built it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I want to get to your pictures. We wanted to give you an opportunity to at least talk about it. Okay. So we're ready to show some pictures?
Please.
You'll be able to see them over here. Let's take a look. What do we
That was in, wait a minute, I believe.
Okay, well, we should ask our viewers where it is.
That is Norwood. That's Gun Hill Road and Bainbridge Avenue.
Gun Hill Road and Bainbridge. Now, what I like about this is you could, and we have all walked by that building a million times, people, especially if it's over there near the hospital, and nobody ever took a look at what it looks like.
That's one of the things that's jumped out at me with buildings like this, is how elaborate the design was. You have a little bit of this in other boroughs, but not a lot, and it just seems to be more the exception than more the rule than the exception here.
Right.
That's in Highbridge. The new Yankee Stadium is just to the beyond the shot. Okay. What fascinated me with this is the Jerome and Addison Avenues down by Yankee Stadium. It's that the hill on is so steep here that if you notice, there's a railing built into the house.
But that's right, on the bottom left. Yeah. What I like about it is that, again, you could walk by it a million times, but never really realize what an unusual, alignment of the building that it is. Now, this also a very, I guess you would consider ordinary Bronx scene, but you've got 3 different types of architecture within maybe 50 yards.
Yeah, and it's just very elaborate. Really not, just. Imagination. People put imagination into building houses like this.
And where is this?
This I believe is Concourse Village.
Concourse Village. It certainly looks like an area around the concourse. But again, 3 different types of. Now, when you take a picture like this, do you stop and spend a lot of time? Like, how many pictures did you take?
Generally speaking, on a good day, I'll take about 80 to 100 pictures.
80 to 100.
Yeah, not. It's the advantage of having a digital camera now.
Of course.
With 35 millimeter film, this is Bedford Park. This is off the concourse, up between concourse and Marshall Parkway. This building in particular has always gotten to me. This is about the best picture I've taken of it.
And you've taken this pictures of this building
from different angles and in different ways.
How many pictures would you take of a building like this, for example?
Five or six, depending on the angle I'm at.
And the other thing which I just love about this, and you wonder, what do those rooms look like?
Yes.
Are they circular rooms?
Yes. They have to be, and
one would think,
and the shop down by Highbridge also, where you have like the room right on the angle. And it's
that's got to be an unusually shaped room.
And the windows being the way they are, they probably don't need air conditioning.
This and this one too is just an example of the kind of thing that you could look at 1,000 times and say, "Oh, okay, well, it's just my neighborhood," and never stop to look at the architecture.
This is also Concourse Village.
Also in Concourse Village.
This is and that's
let's slow down with the pictures so we can spend some more time on it.
That's Van Cortlandt building.
This I know because it is the neighborhood that I live in, and I have walked by that particular building 1,000, 100,000 times, and I've known it's kind of a rounded building, but when you stop and you gave it a little distance, it's actually a round building.
The first time I went by there, which was several years ago, I had to just stop and look at it for a couple of seconds before I did anything. It was just an amazing sight.
This is what I really like about your work, and also what I like about this particular type of photography, because you could look at this 100 times and never see it in that way, but you kind of coming from the outside.
I try and take that approach to it. That's why, just to go where I haven't been before. It's easier in some places than others. I mean, going through Queens, where I lived for many years, it's hard to find something new. But the other boroughs, it's
hey man, come to the Bronx.
Yes,
we like it.
Yes.
All right, what do I got? This one I love. And I'll spend a few minutes with it. Go ahead.
This is Longwood. I took the picture from the. I believe one of the stations on the number 2 train.
Oh, you did it from the train station?
I did it from the train.
Itself.
You would not have gotten the angle that I have here. I would not have gotten from the street. I would have been up more. Sometimes the advantage of having elevated subways, I could stand on the platform and just take shots across at it.
You see, now, if you're on the street, and most of us would see this building from the street, if you're on the street, you're looking up, you never realize it's almost like a beret or something at the top of that which is a totally different color. What an interesting shape.
The cornices, the intricate work on the fire escapes, the windows, the area around the windows also.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
now, are you? Do you know architecture?
Not at all.
You just appreciate it.
I've gotten to the point where I know the look, or I know it's different styles. So obviously Art Deco, but I couldn't tell you
one from the other.
Yeah.
Well, but now look how gorgeous this building. Where is this?
This is Melrose.
This is in Melrose.
This is on Melrose Avenue. I was at an exhibit at the old courthouse last summer, and I was walking around back.
That'd be about 163rd Street.
Yeah. And back around I was going back to the subway station, and this is one of the, again another one of these buildings I just had to stand and look at to appreciate.
It's spectacular. Look at the top of it. It's almost like a crown at the top. Of course, it has scaffolding on the right, but fascinating.
But in that case, people trying to keep it up, which is a great thing. That so many of these buildings, people appreciate the architectural heritage, and they're trying to maintain it.
It would be me to make a political statement. I hope many of the landlords appreciate the beauty of it. In many cases, they don't. Now, this is rather ordinary looking.
This is my dad's old block.
There you go.
This is the house that he grew up in, which is 813 80 Avenue. I hope nobody minds my giving the address.
It is what it is.
It's just over at half of it there. I didn't take the picture of that house because there was nothing parked in front because of the fire hydrant. Nothing parked in front of this house, these two houses, and also there were people standing in front of 813. So
what is interesting to me is just frankly the contrast between how stark this is compared to the ornamental buildings that we saw previously.
But even so, if you look at there's some nice little touches to it also. So it's not there. Other places, other boroughs, the little concrete squares
above there,
tiles.
right? Of course, nowadays they would never spend the time or money to do that.
But you would not see that. You would not see that in other places as well.
Right. All right. Let's see what we got next. Now this, and again, in terms of the diversity of the borough of the Bronx, this could be like somewhere in Florida or even in Puerto Rico or something like that.
This is Unionport. This is a couple of blocks below Westchester Avenue. The walk I did that day, I got off the number 6 train. Oh, no, actually, I took the express bus that day. Got off at Parkchester, walked around Parkchester, and I eventually wound up by Pelham Bay Park. And from there, I took the number 6 train back downtown. But it was there was so many houses in Unionport like this, and it's a very and. You find it there. You find it in Van Ness as well.
And again, you could walk by and you could say, "Oh, yeah, well, this is nice. This is a neighborhood that has low-level or private homes," but never fully appreciated. This was the one picture that was not really of structures. So tell me a little bit about this.
Well, one of the things I do at various times, seasonal pictures. So this is more for the foliage effect. I took this up the Bronx River. To get more
about where about Allerton Avenue.
This is further north. I was actually walking. I was actually right along the city line on this one. I was shooting back there.
Right.
On what would become McLean Avenue.
Right.
And I was shooting back down towards there. I just like the look of it.
And well, the look, the colors are just, and again, you don't do a lot of like playing with the photography. No. You shoot it. What kind of equipment do you use?
I use a Pentax X5 camera,
right? And
I download it into a computer. It's a Picasso program. Mm-hmm. I try. I always try to say to people, I do what I do with the computer. What I would do if I was using it larger.
Right.
So you can't help but play around with it a little bit, but not to make what isn't there there.
Right. You want it to be a representation of what's actually there. So now this Northwest Bronx, I'm guessing?
This is Northeast. This is Pelham.
Northeast.
Pelham Gardens. There's about 2 or 3 blocks above Pelham Parkway, and
what a beautiful house.
This is a house I've tried to get before. I've never had quite the right angle or the right light. And
So you had gone back there a couple of times.
not often. Usually, my general attitude is if it doesn't work out well, it's not worth it. But this the
Something
house
about this structure.
Something about this house, and it's a very nice area. It's a very nice in general. Both sides of Pelham Parkway are just such beautiful areas to get pictures of.
All right, let's see what else we got. We got more.
This is University Heights. This is University Avenue.
I just have to interject. Look at the diversity in our borough. That we were up in down in the South Bronx. We were in High Bridge. We were in Van Cortlandt Village. We were in Pelham Parkway, and now here we are. Tell me about this.
It's just it just grabbed me. I said this is. I took a couple pictures of it from different angles.
And look at the planning. I mean, or imagine the planning that went through with the kind of the tall structures in the middle and then the rounded structures in between them. Extraordinary, really.
It's a lot of thought, a lot of effort went into it, and you don't see that. And again, it's something you don't necessarily see in other parts of the city.
Do you get a similar kind of diversity in other boroughs, or really only in our home?
Not as much. Generally speaking, there's a style to each neighborhood. Every neighborhood has a different style. For example, Queens, there's like this one type of house that. The best way to describe it is that if you ever watched All in the Family, the shot of at the start of the show where the bunkers live.
Oh yeah.
And there's so many of them.
Millions of them.
And
sure.
And I mean, they also have places like not to get into the other boroughs that much, but just if you go along the Van Wyck Expressway and you see blocks and blocks in both directions.
Well, this is again more diversity. Yeah. This is clearly up in Riverdale, looking toward
Spike Dival.
It's
a couple. It's a little bit up from the railroad station, and this is a shot I actually went back to try a couple of times. I never quite got the right one, and this finally worked out for me.
And the other ones were, I'm assuming, pictures of the houses as opposed to this. Really is a picture of the space with the houses.
That was it. It was the right effect. I was always trying to get too much. I was always trying to get too much of the houses. Right. In this case. And
then you realized the better of it was the space.
To get the river and the Palisades in the background, I think was the main thing on that.
All right, what do we got next? I don't know how many pictures we have. This is Riverdale, or Fieldston.
Yeah. And again, it's amazing. It's like you walk around this neighborhood and you don't think of you can't imagine any place else in the city like this, or any place else in most of the suburbs either, for that matter.
All of our borough is like that. That's how we feel about it. Well, this is it, and I love the comparison between the last one and this one. This is
Country Club.
In Country Club.
And I had never walked around here that much, and I found it to be a really fascinating neighborhood. Some of the names of the streets. There's a Research Avenue, there's a Library Avenue, and I'm not sure.
We will have the Bronx Borough historian on the show, and we'll ask Professor Alten about that. All right, I don't know how many we got. This actually is in my neighborhood. I recognize that. I'm in Van Cortlandt Village.
No. This is by Parkchester.
This is Parkchester. It looks
Parkchester
just like,
in the back.
Wow.
I was saying this is on along White Plains Road.
This looks like the same thing in my neighborhood. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'll tell you something. The buildings in Parkchester have that style. The housing development they lived in Queens for a long time, Rochdale Village, has that same. I'm not sure. I don't think it's the same architect, but clearly the same. One guy.
A period concept.
Yeah.
I apologize to my neighbors that I got it wrong.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What is this?
This is Olinville. This is along Bronx Boulevard. And
what an unusual looking
very
house.
much, and it's a whole row of houses there like that. I tried another shot which I didn't know looks more like a stack of dominoes with these houses.
Right.
But this
well kept.
Yeah, very much.
I don't know how many more do we got, Dahlia. What do we want to do? This one.
This is Van Nest.
We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is Van Nest.
Van Nest. And again, the difference of the architecture is astounding.
And the style of that house. And this is Woodlawn, a neighborhood I'd never walked through before. In Woodlawn.
Well, I'm glad we gave you an excuse and a reason to walk through some of our neighborhoods.
Fascinating area. That's City Island.
Oh, City Island. Well, this is similar in a way to some of the other ones. What is this?
That
we're just about going to have to wrap it up.
I'm not sure, but.
So, do we have any more? Oh, this was what they had shown earlier about the Allerton train station.
You know, this is.
I'm wrong again.
This is Simpson Street.
Oh, Simpson! Look how beautiful.
And you can look at how close that building is.
And look at the colors.
Yeah.
Standing there waiting for the train.
Yeah.
I'm sure nobody noticed.
This
That's
is out
the
there. I
Allerton.
mean, this is one I call one of my franchise shots. This is one of the ones that leads me to take other pictures like it.
Great, Joe. I think we're going to have to wrap it up. Great work for Joe Raskin. Now, so when are you going out tomorrow morning, or what are you doing?
It depends. I anticipate. I haven't figured out where I'm going yet, but
You'll be out there, and then you just go and you walk around.
I walk around and then.
Is there a website? Or I've seen them on Facebook. How do we see all these pictures?
It's called HTTP, no www,
Right.
Wandering New York, one word, .tumblr.com.
We've got that on the screen. So anybody who wants to see these photos and other photos, not only of the Bronx, but all the other neighborhoods.
I do post every night, although not necessarily the same shot. Not every.
And they friend Wandering New York on Facebook or something like that?
No, I may start that yet, but you can friend on Tumblr.
Tumblr is the way to do it. Joe Raskin, great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Gary.
Happy New Year.
Same
Thanks
to you.
for giving us a perspective of our borough that we've never had.
And the same to the people of the Bronx.
Thank you very much. Folks, if you have further questions or comments on anything you heard or saw on tonight's show, or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org or put them on our Facebook page, and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of our program. We ask you to like Bronx Talk on Facebook. You can check out the archives at bronxnet.org. You'll find Bronx Talk on the lower right navigation bar. Now, next week, it's 2016. Oh, my goodness. And we'll start the new year by checking in with Councilmember Richie Torres. We'll talk housing, public housing, and a variety of other subjects. We thank our producer, Dalia Gonzalez. Our director is Neilani Rodriguez. Thanks to Helen, who runs the prompter and does so much else for us. For the cast of Thousands, and to you, we thank you for your support of the program, and peace and love in 2016. Happy New Year. Good night.
A boy born in Joplin, Missouri was fascinated by anything with wheels and a motor. The odds of him going on to fascinate millions with his talent? 1 in 260,000. The odds of this born racer having 157 career top 10 finishes in NASCAR? 1 in 125 billion. The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year? 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I'm NASCAR driver Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/sign.